You sit by the fire with your party, the warm light of the fire being all that keeps the darkness at bay. You and your companions had fought some wolves that were acting strangely, and your cleric got bit. As you all rest and try to recover, you look to the sky, a full moon. It's nice to have another source of light. You look over to your cleric, and they're sweating up a storm, and they seem to be doubled over in pain. Then you start to hear it. Bones snapping as their limbs elongate. Their face stretches out to make a snout. Their clothes tear as their new muscles strain against the seams. They howl, and you all get ready to fight. Your cleric is a werewolf. Hello, my name is Monster Half-Life, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from my past videos. In the past, I have advised how to run monsters based on their latest stat blocks. This is usually fine, but today I'm going to be suggesting some homebrews to the stat blocks first before giving you tips on how to run were creatures. Why? Well, simply put, the 2024 stat blocks for all the lycanthropes are garbage. The two big changes that were made were to get rid of immunity to non-silvered weapons, and they changed how their curse works. In the past, it used to give players changes to their stats and a transformation into whatever were creature bit them whenever the full moon comes out. Now, the curse transforms the player into the creature when they have 0 HP and hands control over to the DM, basically killing your character without killing them. So the structure of this video will be my homebrew suggestions to make lycanthropes feel more unique as monsters, and then I will go over each category of lycanthrope. The reason I'm splitting them up is because each one is pretty unique personality-wise, and so they would all run a bit differently. Each individual were creature also will get two ways to run it, as there are the lycanthropes that embrace the curse and the ones that reject it. And those that reject it are more animalistic when they transform as compared to the ones that embrace it. So, without further ado, I'm here to present how to run were creatures. First off, I will say that I don't think you should add back immunity to non-magic weapons that aren't silvered, because it is misleading to the stat block. Their immunity has always been portrayed as super fast regeneration that silver negates, but they don't tell you this flavor in the monster manual. This is usually portrayed in spin-off media such as the D&D comics or the Ravenloft novels. So instead, I would steal from the Wereraven stat block and make this feature regeneration. They hold 10 HP each round unless they are hit by a silvered weapon, and they can only be killed by a silvered weapon. This feature makes it so that martials aren't completely useless if they can't afford more than one silvered weapon among them, but it still highlights the importance of having silver with you, more so since you can't kill them without silver. If you want to take it a step further, you could have each were creature be weak to a different type of metal, like having werebears be weak to cold iron instead of silver because of their proximity to the Fae. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to assume a blanket weakness to silver throughout the video. Secondly, the curse itself needs to be changed. My suggestion is either to change it back to the 2014 version, which activates on a full moon, or to make a hybrid of the two curses. So for the hybrid, the curse would still activate when the player hits 0 hit points, and they would transform and start regenerating. The DM controls them for the battle until they are knocked out, and then the player can play their character as normal until the thing that activates their curse happens to the player again. Then they choose if they want to embrace the curse or not, and if they do, then you can change their stats and give them the ability to transform into a were creature at will. For the player characters, I'd have it be an action to transform instead of a bonus action like the NPCs, and maybe you can figure out another weakness or two to the regeneration. But that's on you to figure out when they get infected. Also, I would not have any of the effects such as the regeneration or increased stats kick in until the transformation for the first time. It gives an air of mystery to whether they are infected or not if you made them roll their save in secret. Now, let's move on to the different types of were creatures. Werebears are very interesting because they are neutral good. So unlike the other lycanthropes, they aren't compelled to destroy and hunt. Instead, they are compelled to protect nature, either by themselves in little groves or by teaming up with the Fae or Druids. The Werebear is also one of the rarest lycanthrope, as they only spread their curse to apprentices that they train to harness their power. The only way a normal person can become a werebear is if they come across a feral one who can't quite control their powers yet, and you don't want to come across a 7 to 8 foot tall bear man in the woods. For strategies on how to play one who's in control of their powers, they are most likely trying to get you to surrender rather than trying to kill you. They will use their hand axe to hit people who are about 20 feet away, then close the distance to do a rend attack. They also want to get closer to grab their hand axe again, since they only have 4 of them. They will not do their bite attack unless they feel they are in mortal danger, even though it does the most damage overall. The reason that they do this is because the bite is what transfers their curse. If you need to run away, they will use their bonus action to shift fully into a bear and run. Their 40-foot ground speed as a bear is fast enough to get away from a good majority of the adventurers, and their 30-foot climb speed can get up walls and trees to get to higher ground. Like all lycanthropes, they will avoid those with silvered weapons at first and go after any magic users first. Then they try to knock out their easier prey before finally getting to the party members with silvered weapons. They generally want to try and be as unharmed as possible before fighting anyone with silvered weapons because they know that silver can kill them. For what to do with werebears that aren't in control of themselves, they're going to be a lot less friendly. Play them like a bear who feels threatened. They will bite and claw and scratch their opponents to try and kill them. These ones are going by instinct and frenzy, so they will not have the strategic mind of their calmer counterparts. The wild ones will most likely just attack whoever's closest to them. Werebears are usually guarding some sort of relic if they're helping at a Fey creature or Druid circle. While I probably wouldn't have the Werebear wielding the magic item unless it is a magic weapon, it would be appropriate to have him guarding a magic item from the uncommon or rare relics table from the Dungeon Master's Guide. A Staff of Woodlands for your Druid, perhaps? Or maybe an Amulet of Health that magically keeps the grove thriving. Or maybe a 3rd level Druid spell slot that could help your party out in a pinch. Figuring out why a magic item is where it is helps the DM tell a more complete story of the world. Another thing that I might consider loot is one of the players getting infected by a werebear with the purpose of becoming their apprentice. The werebear is one of the more manageable lycanthropes to handle as a player and one of the more rewarding. As your strength goes up to 19, you get a +1 AC when you're in your bear hybrid form, and you get the claw and bite attacks in hybrid form while using their strength. The Wereboar is the opposite of the werebear. They are brutish in their tactics, and they don't really care who they infect. In fact, they relish the thought of people trying to resist the effects, as it makes them more savage than if they accept it. So, what does this mean for tactics? Well, the Wereboar is going to want to start away from the party so they can use their tusk attack at whoever they end up rushing. If they charge 20 feet in a straight line and hit the opponent, the target takes an extra 2d6 damage on top of the 2d6 plus 3 piercing that they'd be taking from the attack normally. And the opponent would fall prone. No saving throw. After that, they use their bite attack to both try and infect the person prone and do as much damage as possible. Then they'd probably disengage to circle around and charge someone with their tusk attack on their next turn. The name of the game is trying to knock people prone and infect them as much as possible, if they aren't trying to kill them, of course. They would also shapeshift into a boar as they're retreating to line themselves up for another tusk attack, as they have a 40-foot movement speed as a boar versus their 30-foot movement speed in their hybrid form. They'd only use the javelin as throwing weapons, not in melee. and only if they aren't charging to melee. As for the frenzied ones, well, truthfully, they'd probably attack the party like an angry boar. Lots of goring and tusk attacks on the closest enemy before they can charge to the next one. They might not go for the absolute closest after they knock out their first target, because they still want to take advantage of the extra 2d6 plus prone condition that charging 20 feet before attacking with their tusks can afford them. Wereboars have 6 javelins on them, and they will probably also be carrying anywhere from 20 to 160 gold on them, about 90 on average. No magic items usually, though if you're having the Wereboars be part of some sort of hunting party or raiders, their leader might have a magic item or two that they looted from the towns that they attacked. Maybe a magic weapon that your characters have been sent to get back, since it's a family heirloom. Or maybe a wand or a staff to cast spells and give range to the Wereboar, and make that one shine over his companions. If infected, the party member would get a strength of 17, a +1 to their AC when in boar or hybrid form, and the tusk and gore options that use their strength modifier. Wererats. They're sewer creatures that have a heightened sense of community. They stick together and run some sort of thieves guild in most major cities. They steal what they have to survive and then steal a little bit more to satisfy an itch. They're pretty common in cities, but they are also a very exclusive club to join. You can only become a Wererat if you plan on joining their little community. If you leave their community or are accidentally infected and they don't want you, they'll hunt you down to kill you. For Wererats that are in control of themselves, they prefer hit-and-run tactics to fighting up close and personal. With their climb speed, they're able to climb up walls and scale buildings rather easily, so they will most likely be sniping you with their hand crossbow. If they need to, they'll stab you with their claws, but they will generally transform into a rat to run back into the sewers. And while it doesn't say this on the stat block, I think they would also coat their weapons in poison to either slow down the opponent or kill them. For feral Wererats, you'll probably find them running away. They have the mind of rats, and they won't fight unless cornered. If they do get cornered, they'll lash out with their bite and scratch attack. The bite does slightly more damage than a dagger, and it could get you infected, which would mark you for death within the Wererat community if they don't want you to join them. While their stat blocks only give them a hand crossbow and anywhere from 3 to 12 gold, about 10 on average, I would argue that most of their loot should be coming from their underground sewer base. You'll see a lot of junk in the pile, of course, but with some investigation checks, the party might find some rare art pieces, some gold coins, or maybe even a magic item. Nothing too powerful, since Wererats are only CR2, but something neat, like a wand of magic missile. Generally, a treasure hoard for the CR that the Wererat is at would hold anywhere from 200 to 800 gold worth of things, with 1d4 minus 1 magic items, so anywhere between 0 and 3. If your party member gets infected and becomes a Wererat, their dexterity becomes a 16, which is boosted from the 2014 stat block of a 15, and you will get the bite attack in hybrid and rat form. Bite can use either your strength modifier or your dex modifier for the attack. Weretigers are warriors, generally blessed with their lycanthropy as a reward for their excellent fighting skills, or it's a family curse that's passed down from generation to generation. They don't tend to like to pass their curse on either way, unless someone is worthy of it. They tend to guard places of great importance like the resting place of a magic weapon, or the training grounds for new heroes. Weretigers that are in control have features that suggest that they are ambush fighters. Their bonus action Prowl lets them move without provoking opportunity attacks, and then take the hide action as part of that same bonus action. They have access to both a scratch attack and a longbow attack. Both do decent damage, but not enough to reveal themselves and get up close to the enemy. So I would have them stalk from the forest tree line, using their first turn to make sure they are really hidden. Then use their longbow to hit unsuspecting foes, then use the prowl bonus action to move and hide again. It should be a game of cat and mouse to try and catch the Weretiger, since if you're fighting them, they are most likely testing the might of the heroes before they are allowed to do whatever they're trying to do. Weretigers that aren't in control of themselves are a different story. They will most likely not have the mental capacity to use their longbow, so they will be going into melee to fight. But this doesn't mean they're stupid. They will try to sneak and attack stragglers in the party, picking them off one by one. One homebrew suggestion is to add the pounce feature back into the Weretiger stat block, which basically lets you run 15 feet to attack and knock someone prone if the Weretiger hits. But I would add it to the tiger form only. It gives a little more distinction between the hybrid and the tiger forms. Besides a longbow and about 3 to 12 gold, the book recommends giving something from the armaments table as a prize to win from the Weretigers. I think this is a great idea, especially with some of the choices that you're able to get from the table. If you're fighting dragons, having this be a place to get a legendary Dragon Slayer sword could be a very thematic story beat. Or a Ring of Protection to help protect against the foes ahead. Or a Mace of Smiting if you're having the party go against constructs, etc., etc. It is an easy way to test the heroes and give them a story-relevant item, and possibly a mentor along the way. If a party member gets infected, they will have their strength boosted to 17 if it isn't higher already, and they will get the scratch and bite attack, which uses their strength modifier. And they would normally get the pounce ability, which has a DC of 8 plus strength plus proficiency, but since this isn't in the new stat block, I would give them the prowl bonus action instead. Werewolves are the most famous of the lycanthropes, and tend to be the ones that are featured in spooky adventures. Truthfully, the ones in control and the frenzied ones don't play too differently, as compared to other lycanthropes, and that is because werewolves want to spread their curse, and they revel in destruction and death. The new stat block does give them something that the old one did not, that makes them a much more credible threat. They get pack tactics. No, not that guy. The ability pack tactics. It gives them advantage on any attack against a foe as long as an ally is within 5 feet of them. This ability paints a very deadly picture on how to run these creatures. Ones that are in control are smart enough to see what their biggest threat is. Werewolves always hunt in packs, and they will pick out the weakest party member first. They will try and separate them from the rest of the group and take them out quickly with a flurry of scratches and bites. The werewolf does not care if it infects people or not. They will focus fire one party member at a time and try to overwhelm them. They don't tend to spread out too much, as this makes it harder for them to use their pack tactics ability. They will use their longbow only if they have to, but they generally won't, as they like to feel the blood of their enemies staining their hands. Werewolf packs may also include regular wolves and dire wolves, so that can also be used to confuse the party if all the werewolves are in wolf form. It becomes harder for them to find out who's a regular wolf and who is a werewolf. Frenzied werewolves play practically the same besides these two differences. First, they will not use their longbow, period. Secondly, they won't strategize as much on who to attack. They'll go after the weakest looking party member, of course, even if they aren't giving them as much trouble as a stronger one. If they can kill an opponent, aka a party member in battle, they might just drag the corpse away to eat at their lair, and leave the rest of their party alone. Though, truthfully, I doubt the party will just let their friend get dragged off all by himself. Truthfully, werewolves wouldn't have a lot of loot to begin with. They'd have their longbow and some gold, but They have no real reason to carry anything else. Now, of course, you could homebrew it and have one of them be carrying a magic item before they transformed, but generally, if they have their wits about them, they won't be carrying anything while they're hunting. Now, if you get infected, your strength will go up to 16, which is better than the 15 it would go up to in the 2014 version. You'll get a +1 AC while you're in hybrid or wolf form, and you get the scratch and bite attacks, both of which use your strength modifier. Wereravens were introduced in Curse of Strahd and readapted in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. These lycanthropes are few and far between because they are a very paranoid bunch. They try to blend in with society and don't like to spread their curse, and fear of someone using it for evil. Truthfully, if your party is fighting a Wereraven, they're probably fighting on the wrong side. Wereravens that are in control tend to keep their distance when they're fighting. They will use their fly speed to stay out of harm's way and pepper the party with canned crossbow bolts. They will especially go after spellcasters and people with silvered weapons, as both groups can bypass their regeneration. They will use their short sword if they have to fight on the ground, or if they can't fly for some reason. But they will flee if they're brought to under half HP. They will then report the incident to any of their Wereraven friends, as well as any ravens in the area. If you mess with a Wereraven, then you mess with all of Ravenkind, and your party will have to keep an eye on the skies from then on. A feral Wereraven will most likely not fight at all, though if they do, they'll be pecking at their opponents to keep them away. Unlike most lycanthropes, their bite does less damage than their weapon attacks, so they know that they can't stay fighting for long. While you won't find much on them, Wereravens tend to take it upon themselves to hide certain magic items from the hands of evildoers. So if you're able to find the Wereraven's hiding spot, you might have the party find some magic items. Or if the party helps the Wereravens on a quest, the Wereravens might trust them enough to give the magic item to them. Now, if a party member gets infected, their dex will go up to 15 if it wasn't already. They get the bite attack, which is 1d4 plus dex in their hybrid form, or 1 singular damage in their raven form. And they have the ability to transform into a hybrid or a Wereraven. Both forms give you a 50-foot fly speed and the regeneration. The regeneration's pretty good because it can only be stopped by silvered weapons or if you get hit by a magic spell. Exclusive to the Dungeon of the Mad Mage adventure, the Werebats don't have a lot of information on them. They're mostly goblins, surprisingly, but they got kicked out of Goblin Society because they need to eat blood constantly. Combined with a weird quirk in their stat block where they have a short bow that they can use in hybrid form, but they can only attack with it once instead of twice with their multi-attack, the general consensus is that Werebats are melee creatures that use ambush tactics. Werebats that are in control will most likely just go for the amount of blood that they need. They have sunlight sensitivity, which means that they're only hunting at night. They also have nimble escape, like most goblins do, but unfortunately they can only use this feature in their goblin form. So what the Werebat would most likely do is suck one party member dry, transform into a goblin once they're done, and use nimble escape to disengage if they're next to someone. If they aren't next to someone, and they manage to drain a party member away from the others, it'll most likely fly away, transform into a goblin on higher ground, and use nimble escape to hide in the cave. These are not brave creatures. Frenzied Werebats might be a bit more aggressive, but generally have the same tactics as the ones with control of their curse. They don't have a lot to speak of. They generally have anything a goblin would have, but that's not really a lot. The reward of the quest is most likely just getting rid of the werebats themselves. If you happen to get infected, your dexterity will go up to 15 and you get the bite attack of the werebat, which can use either your strength modifier or your dexterity modifier. You also get their echolocation and their fly speed, but you also inherit their bloodlust. If you don't drink a pint of blood every single night, then you will get 1 level of exhaustion per night that this happens. That cannot be dispelled until you drink a pint of blood. Overall, I personally think this is one of the worst lycanthrope curses to get. Werevultures are from the Book of Many Things, and they are very unique compared to the rest of the lycanthropes. Firstly, their curse is said to come from demons, Vrox specifically, and so in turn they end up being classified as fiends instead of humanoids like the other ones. Secondly, they have no weakness to silver. This, unlike the other lycanthropes, makes sense, since they are demonic in origin. Their regeneration can only be stopped by radiant damage. They like to eat the dead and take little trinkets and treasures from adventurers. For wereravens that are in control, they generally want to stay in melee to try and knock out the opponent as fast as they can, especially if they can do radiant damage. The stat block's multi-attack only works with their melee attacks, so they will most likely not be using their longbow unless they absolutely have to. Especially considering their claw attack does 4d4 plus 3 piercing damage, it can do quite a lot of damage for the CR that they're at. Once they take out anyone who can do radiant damage, they don't really have to care about opportunity attacks, or any sort of attack really, since those attacks can't put them down for good. With a 60-foot fly speed, they can also fly out of range of any hard-hitting melee people to regenerate some HP, and then fly right back down to bombard the opponent. For feral werevultures, I truthfully would probably just do the same tactics as the ones that are in control. Kill anyone that can put them down for good, and then go ham on whoever's closest. While an individual wereraven might not have anything on them, they might have a hoard of things that they stole from adventurers. A hoard of their level would have about 200 to 800 golds worth of stuff, like art pieces and jewelry, and they can have anywhere from no magic items at all to 3 magic items, depending on how generous you want to be. Lastly, they don't have any official stats of what a player would get if they turn into a werevulture, as this is where they introduce the part of the curse that takes away the player character unless they are cured. I don't like that, so I would recommend giving them this. Their strength goes up to 17 unless it's higher already, and they get the beak and talon actions, though I would nerf the talons to do 2d4 plus your strength modifier instead of 4d4 plus your strength modifier, and I would change the bonus action to an action for the player character to transform. The Loup-Garou, French for werewolf, is the toughest of all the lycanthropes that you will encounter. They have a more aggressive strain of the werewolf curse, and they desperately want to spread it. This is a problem because any werewolf that is cursed by the Loup-Garou can't get rid of the curse until after the Loup-Garou is dead. And even then, it is still a DC 17 wisdom saving throw under the full moon after remove curse is cast. If you fail the saving throw, you have to wait another month until you can try to get cured again. Even if you do get cured, you get 3 levels of exhaustion from the whole ordeal, so you'll most likely need to rest for the next couple of days to fully recover. All that is to say, getting cursed by this thing is a pain in the ass. The Loup-Garou has a lot of abilities that put them above the rest of the lycanthrope. First off, they have Blood Frenzy, which gives them advantage on targets that don't have all their health. So that tells us that they want to hit as many people as possible during the first or second round so they can take advantage on most of the party. Then they'll want to focus on one specific target once everyone has been damaged. Secondly, They have 2 legendary resistances under their belt. They will use this to avoid things like getting restrained or paralyzed, though this will most likely be used for debilitating intelligence or wisdom saving throws, as they have a +9 to their constitution saves and a +8 to their charisma saves. Their regeneration makes sure that they aren't worried about most damage that's coming their way at all. Speaking of, third is their regeneration. They regenerate 10 HP per round as long as they haven't been hit by a silvered weapon. They can only die if they can't regenerate when they hit 0 HP. So you'd better hope your party kept their silvered weapons for this CR13 boss fight, or they will have a very tough time keeping this thing down. Lastly, they have 3 legendary actions. All of them have something to do with attacking, so I'll get into how to use them in the attacking segment of the Garou. The Garou does not distinguish between being in control and being frenzied. If someone is a Garou, they want to be one. The 2 attacks they will mainly be using is their bite and their claw attack. They do have a longsword, but that's only usable in their humanoid form, and the party doesn't want to fight a guy, they want to fight a werewolf. It can attack twice during their turn, once with its claw and once with its bite, and it will always use the claw first. Why? Because it has the chance of knocking an opponent prone if they fail a DC 17 strength saving throw. While the advantage doesn't really matter to a Garou, since it will most likely have advantage anyways, it will be good for any werewolf allies that he's fighting with. Plus, it cuts an adventurer's speed in half, as they have to spend half their movement getting up. Next, you want to use the bite, which does a whopping 2d8 plus 4 piercing damage and 4d6 necrotic damage, and it has a fairly high chance of infecting a victim. He has 3 legendary actions to choose from, though you'll most likely be picking from the first 2. The first one is called Swipe, and it just does 1 claw attack. Nothing too complicated. The one that you want to use almost every round is Mauling Pounce, which costs 2 legendary actions. You're able to move up to your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Plus, each person that you pass, you can make 1 claw attack against them. The Garou can move 40 feet in their hybrid form and 50 feet in their wolf form. Planning right, you might be able to hit everyone in the party if you're able to pass by them. Also remember that everyone you hit with a claw attack has to make a strength saving throw or be knocked prone, so you have the potential to keep a lot of the party from being able to effectively approach due to the simple fact that they have to waste half their movement to get up. Lastly, you have the Bite legendary action, which costs all 3 of your legendary actions for that round to use. It lets you instantly transform into one of your wolf forms and use a bite attack. It isn't a bad option per se, but you're sacrificing a lot to do this bite attack. It doesn't have the ability of Mauling Pounce, nor is it cheap like Swipe. So you have to be sure that you need to use this bite to knock out whoever you're using it on. For strategies, you want to keep the Garou on the move, using their 2 attacks to severely weaken someone, then use Mauling Pounce to try and hit everyone on the battlefield as you pass them by, then lastly using the Swipe legendary action on your next turn for whoever you end up near. Then just rinse and repeat. They are savage hunters, and playing them like this makes the party feel like they're fighting a savage hunter. Sadly, I don't think the Garou would have much loot to, well, loot. They don't have bases, and they carry around practically nothing. If you want them to have something, then they're most likely going to be carrying around some sort of amulet. But if the party is going after one of these things, they're most likely trying to help someone infected with the Garou version of the werewolf curse, so killing it might just be reward enough. If they manage to infect you, your adventure is going to get the same benefits and downsides as the regular werewolf curse, with the added caveat that they can't be cured until the Garou is dead. Hoo boy! That was a lot more lycanthropes than I expected. Not to mention, they each have their own way of playing them because of their personalities and quirks. But that's a good thing. I don't think that every lycanthrope should be the werewolf with a different skin. I would mix in information from the 2014 Monster Manual with the 2024 Monster Manual, as both have pretty cool tidbits of how each lycanthrope should work. For example, wererats transform involuntarily during nights of a new moon instead of a full moon. One last book that I would recommend is Van Richten's Guide to Werebeasts. It's a much older D&D book and made for an older edition of D&D, but it can still give great ideas and inspirations for what to do with your were creatures. One last thing. Remember to remind your players that it's not just their stats that get changed when they get infected. They also have a bit of a personality shift, like werewolves being more aggressive, Wereravens being a bit more paranoid, Weretigers being a little bit more noble, etc., etc. But whatever you decide to do with them, just make sure that your players fear the night because of these creatures, especially when there's a full moon out. Hi, this is Monster Half-Life, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out some of my older videos while you wait for new content to come out.